Y10. This is lesson 2 in our sequence of 12 lessons on the physical landscapes of the UK as part of paper 2. So what I'd like you to do, please, is to firstly write today's title, which is The Processes Affecting the UK's Landscape. I'd also like you to write down the keywords that we have highlighted on the right. So today's keywords are tectonics, glaciation and faults, and I will expect that you have a good understanding of what these words mean. So pause the video now to do that. Just a quick reminder that I would like to see all work uploaded to Teams, either through the app or through your browser. You can download the app to your phone or computer. If you have problems doing that, please email either me or Miss Edmonds using the email address in the description below this video. This map shows the impact of tectonics on the UK's physical landscapes, and I want you just to ask yourself which parts of the UK have been affected the most by tectonic activity, that is the movement of plates. So hopefully you should see that really the north has been affected the most, the south not really at all been affected by tectonics. And then, however, down in the southwest we have our anomaly here. The southwest has been affected by volcanic activity. Now, at a simple level, these areas are where you've got extrusions and intrusions of igneous rock, and that's as a result of volcanoes. So millions of years ago, the UK used to be a tectonically active area, which meant it had volcanoes, but at the same time it also had earthquakes. As the plates have pulled apart, we've actually drifted further away from the tectonic plate boundary. So once upon a time, we would have been somewhere near the center of the boundary in the middle. And over time, as the plates have pulled apart, the UK has drifted further and further away from that boundary. So as a result, that's why we have no tectonic activity now. Okay, these faults, these are areas of faults. These are areas where there's been significant earthquake activity, creating these giant vertical cracks in the rock, which I'll talk about in a second. The first place I'd like to briefly mention is this place called Giant's Causeway. This is in Northern Ireland, and it's a lava flow, essentially a lava flow at a simple level. It's a lava flow of igneous rock, mainly basalt. Okay, this is an incredible place, and what's happened is lava has been forced out of the Earth's crust. It's been forced through into the top layer of sedimentary rock, and then over time the sea has eroded the softer sedimentary rock around these incredible hexagonal shaped columns, and what you're left with is this amazing feature that is truly world famous. You can see it again here, and it's so famous that even the Simpsons have visited. The next type of tectonic activity I'd like to talk to you about is faulting. See this gentleman here, he's standing next to the fault. If you remember from the definitions, that a fault is a large vertical crack in the rock. And this, a geologist would be able to tell you that this has clearly been caused as a result of the Earth suddenly shifting over time. So two slabs of rock have built up pressure over time, and then suddenly that pressure has been released and the cracks have formed, and you have this kind of faulting process going on. So you can see it clearly here. So a place where there's lots of faulting is in the Pennines. You might like to pause the video now and look back at your map of the UK and see if you can recall where the Pennines are found. This place, for example, is called Malham Cove, and this is a perfect example of where there's been faulting, and it's also been affected by glaciation as well, which we'll come on to. This area is the Pennines is one of the most important upland areas. It's in northern England, and it runs from north to south, north of Manchester, and it runs down in a kind of north-south line, and it's a very famous area. As you can see here, this area has been affected by faulting. So with this information, I want to keep it really simple. This is the question we're going to try and tackle. I would like you please to explain 2 ways in which tectonics has affected the physical landscape of the UK. So what we need to do if we're doing explain is we need to be giving a reason for why something has happened, and the kind of words that we should be using for this, we need to be using words like so, which, for example, which has created. And that's great, and that's how we get from our point to our develop. Remember that the question is 4 marks and it's explaining 2 ways. So we need to do point, develop, point, develop. Please pause the video now, write down the question and see if you can do those 2. If you need to go back to listen to the explanations again, please do so. Let's take a look at the answers. So what we needed to write then for the first one was we needed to write volcanic eruptions or volcanic activity for 1 mark. In Northern Ireland is a good location specific example, but it wasn't essential. We needed to then say volcanic eruptions have created areas of igneous rock, lava flows, lava extrusions, and you can include the example if you like, but again, it's not essential. The important bit is that you've got something about what has the volcanic eruption created. Volcanic eruption, areas of igneous rock or lava flows, either is fine. The second answer I wanted you to write about was faulting. So I wanted to say that faults have been created as a result of earthquakes. It's really that simple, Year 10. Earthquakes have created faults. Give yourselves a mark out of 4 and correct in green, black, blue, red, pink, yellow, whatever colour pen you want to use. Correct it and make sure you've got the right answer written down. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is glaciation. Now this is a really important aspect of the UK's physical landscape. So about between 10 and 30,000 years ago, much of the UK was covered in layers of, in a huge layer of ice sheet, which was made up of glaciers, which are slow flowing rivers of ice. Okay, so temperatures were a lot colder back then, and you can see that much of the UK, in fact all of Scotland, all of Ireland and Northern Ireland, pretty much all of Wales and a large part of northern England was covered in ice. And in fact you could actually find glaciers as far north as kind of Watford, which was kind of north of London at the time, this kind of area. Okay, if you went up to North London, you could see at times during the last 30,000 years you could see a wall of ice a mile high, okay, above your heads. This had a huge impact on the UK landscape, and we're going to look at it. The first impact is the formation of something called U-shaped valleys. Obviously they're called that because of their U-shape, their distinctive U-shape, as opposed to a V-shaped valley. We're going to just find out briefly how they were formed. So what happened was, let me just go back. What happened is that these valleys used to be river valleys, used to be V-shaped valleys like this. Okay. Then over time, as a glacier formed, the glacier eroded the edges of the V-shaped valley, turning it to a U-shape. Started off with a V-shape, and it flattened and then became a U-shaped valley as this giant river of ice, the glacier, eroded the edges of it. Here's another example in the Pennines. Interestingly, in the Pennines here you can see faulting, tectonic activity, as well as a beautiful U-shaped valley. What you typically find on a U-shaped valley is that they have very steep sides, and the gradient gets increasingly gentle as you approach the valley bottom. If you'd like to watch this animation, you can see how it changed over time. So as the glacier formed, it carved out and eroded the sides of a V-shaped valley. This is the original V-shaped valley here. They're quite narrow and they're steep-sided, and over time it's got wider and it's become more U-shaped. I'd like you now just to pause this if you need to. I just want you to draw a really simple sketch showing what it would have looked like before a glacial period, before glaciation. So here's our typical V-shaped valley. Now the V-shaped valley would have been formed by the erosion of an area of land by a river. Okay, so it's formed by river erosion. Then along comes the glacier, and it erodes the edges, and you end up with a U shape. Okay. In the next lesson, we're going to come on to upland landscapes, and we're going to look in a bit more detail at exactly how U-shaped valleys are formed and the landforms that you find there. So just pause the video and neatly copy those, include the text there. Okay, the question we're going to try is a really straightforward one. Again, it's an explain question, so we need to give a reason. And what I'd like us to do is to do a simple point develop. So it says explain one way this time in which glaciation has affected the physical landscape of the UK. It says 4 minutes to answer here, but that should be 2 minutes. So if you pause the video and give that a try, and then we can look at the answers. Answers are as follows. Glaciers have eroded V-shaped valleys, turning them into U-shaped valleys. The crucial information you need here is that you've got erosion as an absolute minimum. Erosion. Glaciers have eroded the land, forming U-shaped valleys. That's really all you need there. I'd like you to look at this amazing picture, this beautiful photo of the Pennines, and I just want you to think about what is special about this photo. Pause the video, have a think. It shows both glaciation and tectonics. So you can see here, guys, that you have both a U-shaped valley as well as you have faults. So we've got both of these processes going on in this picture. Okay, the last thing I'd like you to do, please, is just a quick quiz on everything that we've done in this lesson. So I'd like you just to write down the correct or most appropriate answer. Okay, so you've got a choice of 3, sometimes 4 different options there, and I'd like you to pause it, choose the correct answer or the one that you think is most appropriate, and then in the next page we'll mark our answers. Okay, answers are as follows. A glacier is a slow-moving river of ice. A fault is a large vertical crack in rock. The part of the UK most affected by tectonics is the north. There was an anomaly, an area that's also been affected by tectonic activity. I wonder if you can remember where that was. So that area was the southwest, where there'd been volcanic activity over time. Number 4, U-shaped valleys are formed by glacial erosion. And then lastly, the Giant's Causeway was caused by volcanic activity. So mark those, and then what I'd like you to do, please, is upload work to Teams or email it to me or Miss Edmonds. Next lesson, we're going to start looking in a bit more detail about upland landscapes here. That's going to be lesson 3. upland landscapes for paper 2. Best of luck. I'll see you next time.